Like, seriously, can you actually measure a tree? Seriously. Hello, welcome to Peak Arguments, where a regular old guy argues about stuff. So I bring up the tree thing because I saw this, like a debate or something, the other day, and the Christian or the theist wanted to argue the point that there are some things, science cannot answer these questions, which is pretty much true. There are some things that science can't answer. Things like, what happens after death? What does it mean to have a good life? What is the purpose for your life? These questions are, kind of outside the purview of science. The reason I bring this up, I saw this Christian argue the point that, for example, you cannot measure love. Just the feeling of love that you get, whether it's towards your spouse, your husband or your wife, or to your kids, the love of nature, etc. I love nature. And I guess the point that they're trying to make is we all know that love exists, and yet you can't measure it. How can you measure how much you love your wife? How do you measure, how can you say that you love your kids more than that guy loves his kids? And so I think that's what they're getting at. There are things like love, like God, or, some of the more spiritual sides of religion that can't be measured, and yet they exist. I guess I want to push back on that by saying, can you measure a tree? It's a serious question. Can you actually measure a tree? Some eagle-eyed viewers might notice some trees in the background here. So we know that they exist, but can you measure one? And you might go, well, yeah, of course I can. That tree there is 10 meters high. Well, you've actually just measured the height of the tree. Can you measure a tree? Well, yeah, I'll measure around the trunk and it's 90 centimeters in the circumference. Well, that's actually, you've measured the circumference of the tree. And then you might go, well, yeah, there's green leaves and there's 400 leaves on this tree. Well, you've just actually counted the leaves and quantified the color of the leaves. Can you actually measure a tree? I guess if you follow that logic along, you can't measure a tree, because when we say a tree, it's just like this abstract idea that we're talking about. And then when we talk about all those things like the height and this and that, those are attributes of the tree, but it's not a tree. And so when we say the word tree, we're referring to a group of, say, organic structures or organic plants that have tree-like attributes. And I think likewise, in a similar way, when we say love, we're referring to a feeling, a group of behaviors, a group of actions, like a social structure that has attributes, but you can't actually get at the thing itself. So, attributes might be like the facial expressions that you see in other people. It might be the feeling that you have in yourself. It might be the behaviors that you do, like buying flowers or chocolates or etc., things like that. Or the way that you interact with that person. The way that you interact with your spouse is going to be different to the way that you interact with your, best friend, and so on. Or hopefully it's going to be different anyway. And so, yeah, this whole you can't measure love, it doesn't really land with me. Maybe, I don't know, if someone listening to this or watching has another way of thinking about it that can narrow that down for me, that'd be much appreciated. But thank you for everyone that's watched so far and subscribed. I really appreciate it. I'm not really much of a talker, or I'm a bit nervous in front of people, so I appreciate the support. Thank you.